You're watching Indonesia This Morning. Peter Zilahy is a many-sided author whose prose and poetry has been widely translated. He's often used photography, interactive media, and performance art in his work. His dictionary novel, The Last Window Giraffe, published 10 years ago, has been translated more than 20 languages, including into Bahasa Indonesia. And we have with us today Peter Zilahy to talk about his literary works and what personal experiences has inspired them. Good morning, Mr. Zilahy. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Now, first, let me ask you, your work, The Last Window Giraffe, some say it's called a dictionary novel. What is really a dictionary novel?
Well, a dictionary novel is something that looks like a dictionary, but when you read it, it's actually a novel because there is a main character and there is a story. And
okay, if you can show to our audience, to the camera over there. So basically the stories are all connected between the alphabets from A to B to C.
Well, instead of chapters, you have the letters.
Okay.
And but when you read the book, it all connects and
it all connects.
And you get a novel.
I also saw that you put in a lot of photographs in there. What did
well,
you?
It's a picture dictionary.
It's a picture dictionary. Okay, so each picture relates to the alphabet it's in.
Yeah, I did work together. I did some of the pictures with the text, and I wrote some of the text for the pictures.
Okay, so this is quite unique. Why did you choose to do this?
Well, I was thinking of what would be the ideal form to write about the dictatorship and my childhood, and because everybody was treated like children in the dictatorship, a picture dictionary for children seemed to be the right form to write about the dictatorship. But it was an experiment, but it did work out. It was now, published in Indonesian as well, in more than 20 other countries.
So it's going well. And how are the response so far? You've been touring Indonesia, I know, from several cities now, and you're going back today to your hometown. But how was your response? What was the result of your tour in Indonesia?
It was very well received. A lot of people actually found connections between protests that were going on here earlier and the protests in the book. So it's not totally unconnected, and I was quite surprised to see that people find relating matters here.
You were trying to portray your childhood experience and dictatorship in this book. Are you yourself satisfied with what was written there?
Well, I have no regrets.
You have no regrets. That's good. What are your future plans? So after this, you're going back to work. What does that mean?
Well, I'm trying to finish my most recent novel, and I also finished some other books before. I did have a theater play which is published next week in Austria, and I'm going there. So yeah, that's pretty much. If you're a writer, you practically work in a room and trying to get away from the other people. And
and be alone. Okay, but for your next work, would you consider something like this again, or would you, explore other forms of media?
Yeah, every book I write is quite different. I always try to find the right form, and if I have an idea, it can turn into a movie, it can turn into a theater play, or it can turn into a novel, depending on what would be the best form for the given matter.
Now, your inspiration, as you have mentioned, was inspired by your childhood memories in a dictatorship. What was it like?
Well, in a way, it's actually fun because if you're young, you want to be against something, and if you have a dictatorship to be against, it's kind of challenging. And because the dictatorship is bad, and if you're against it, that makes you automatically good. Kids today don't have that kind of chance. You can only be against money, and how can you be against money? It's kind of.
But does that have the same impact to you as it does to your peers and to your friends and families?
Well, the good thing was that, the dictatorship disappeared as I grew up, so it was just a temporary thing. I grew up in a dictatorship, but I didn't have to be humiliated every day again and again as an adult. So, in a way, I had the chance to live in two different systems, which is a good experience because you can really compare. And
okay. Now, an article has compared your descriptions of Belgrade's 1996 to 1997 protest as carnival-like and as being symbolic of all protests in its courage and absurdity. Why did you choose that historical moment as a focal point?
Well, the Belgrade protests and revolution, the so-called Yellow Revolution, was a lost revolution, but it was an incredible carnival. And so it reminded me what I was told about the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. So I actually went to live my own 56. I went to Belgrade. And that was totally incredible, this illusion of freedom and euphoria on the street. The people were running around crazy, thinking that they could take their fate in their hands, and that was beautiful. And that's one of the main topics in this book. And the funny thing is that actually later on in Ukraine, they used my book to make their own revolution. So they used the text how to create the actions and how to go around the police and how to have a peaceful revolution inspired by this book.
Okay, very well. Peter Zilahy, thank you very much for being here. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Zilahy has won the 2003 Book of the Year prize in Ukraine. The CD-ROM based on his book, The Last Window Giraffe, is available in 28 countries. Indonesia this morning will continue shortly with the overnight sports news, including the latest from Brazil's soccer and making art from banana stamp stitches ahead.